Have you ever sat in a classroom, staring at the clock, and wondered, whose idea was this anyway? Who decided we should all gather in a room to learn about numbers, letters, and the distant past? The answer is more epic than you might think. It's a story that stretches back thousands of years to the very dawn of civilization. This isn't just the history of school, it's the story of how we became who we are. Our journey begins not in a building, but with the first spark of shared knowledge. Imagine early humans gathered around a fire, an elder teaching a younger generation how to knap flint into a tool, or which berries were safe to eat. This was the first classroom. Survival was the only subject, and the final exam was life itself. But for the birth of what we'd recognize as a school, we need to travel to the fertile river valleys of Mesopotamia and Egypt, over 5,000 years ago. Here, great civilizations were rising. They built towering ziggurats and pyramids, managed vast agricultural systems, and traded with faraway lands. This complexity created a new and urgent need: record keeping. They needed to track grain harvests, tax payments, and royal decrees. This demand gave birth to one of humanity's most important inventions: writing. And with writing came the first formal schools. In ancient Sumer, these were called edabas, or tablet houses. They weren't for everyone. The students were almost exclusively the sons of the wealthy elite future priests, government officials, and scribes. Their teacher, called the Omiya, or expert, would drill them relentlessly. Their homework, painstakingly pressing a reed stylus into wet clay tablets to master the intricate cuneiform script. It was grueling work. We found ancient tablets filled with students' complaints, moaning about their long hours and strict teachers. Some things, it seems, never change. What did they learn? The curriculum was practical. They started with basic literacy and numeracy. They memorized long lists of words for plants, animals, and minerals. Advanced students would study mathematics to calculate land area or project yields. They also studied literature, copying down hymns, myths, and epic poems like the Tale of Gilgamesh. They were being trained to be the administrative backbone of an empire. Education was power. It was the key to a life away from the toil of the fields. Meanwhile, in ancient Egypt, a similar system was taking shape. Scribes were revered. The god Thoth, with the head of an ibis, was their patron deity. Young boys, again from privileged backgrounds, would enter scribe schools attached to temples or government offices. They'd spend years learning the complex hieroglyphic and the simpler hieratic scripts, practicing on ostraka-broken pieces of pottery or limestone before they were allowed to use precious papyrus. Their training was the gateway to becoming a doctor, an architect, or a powerful court official. But it was in ancient Greece that the idea of education took a revolutionary turn. It moved beyond just practical training for an administrative class. The Greeks became obsessed with a new question: what does it mean to be a good person and a good citizen? For them, education was about cultivating the whole person, mind, body, and soul. In Athens, schools were everywhere. Young boys attended a palestra for physical education, learning wrestling and athletics, and a didascalium for music and literature. They memorized the epicomes of Homer, the Iliad, and the Odyssey, which weren't just adventure stories but moral guidebooks. They learned to play the lyre and to sing, believe in music brought harmony to the soul. And then came the philosophers. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle transformed education forever. Socrates taught not by lecturing, but by asking questions, forcing his students to think for themselves. Plato founded his famous academy in a grove outside Athens, often considered the first university in the Western world. Here, students didn't just learn facts. They debated profound questions about justice, reality, and the ideal state. Aristotle, a student of Plato, founded his own school, the Lyceum, where he cataloged the entire natural world and laid the foundations for biology, physics, and logic. The Greek model of a liberal arts education that liberates the mind was a radical idea. It wasn't just about getting a job. It was about creating well-rounded, thoughtful citizens, capable of participating in a democracy. This ideal would echo through the ages. As the Roman Empire rose, It absorbed and adapted the Greek educational system. The Romans were practical people. While they admired Greek philosophy and art, they placed a heavy emphasis on skills that would serve the empire. They established a tiered system. At the elementary level, ludus literarius, boys and some girls learned the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. At the secondary level, a grammaticus taught them Greek and Latin literature. For the sons of the elite, the final stage was a school of rhetoric. In the Roman Republic and later the Empire, public speaking was everything. A powerful speech in the Senate or the Forum could make or break a career. Students spent years with the reader, mastering the art of persuasion, debating hypothetical legal cases, and learning how to move an audience. This was training for leadership. An educated Roman was expected to be a soldier, a lawyer, a politician, and an administrator, and his education was designed to prepare him for it all. With the fall of the Roman Empire, Europe entered a period of fragmentation. For centuries, the flickering flame of formal learning was kept alive almost exclusively by the church. Monasteries became the new centers of education. Monks painstakingly copied ancient both religious texts and the works of classical authors like Virgil and Cicero, preserving them for future generations. Cathedral schools began to emerge in towns and cities, initially to train priests, but gradually they began to accept other students. The curriculum was dominated by the 7 liberal arts, divided into the trivium grammar, logic, and rhetoric, and the quadrivium arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. This was the core of medieval education, a system inherited directly from the classical world. Then, starting in the 11th and 12th centuries, something incredible happened. A hunger for knowledge swept across Europe, leading to the birth of the university. Bologna, Paris, Oxford, Cambridge. These weren't just schools. They were self-governing corporations of scholars and students, dedicated to advanced learning and intellectual debate. Students would travel across the continent to hear a famous master lecture on law, medicine, or theology. It was a vibrant, and often rowdy, intellectual world that laid the groundwork for the Renaissance and the scientific revolution. From the medieval university, the path to the modern classroom becomes clearer. The invention of the printing press in the 15th century made books cheaper and more accessible than ever before, fueling literacy and the spread of new ideas. During the Protestant Reformation, leaders like Martin Luther argued that every individual should be able to read the Bible for themselves, leading to a push for widespread public education. The Enlightenment in the 18th century championed reason and individual rights, with thinkers like John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau proposing new theories about child development and the purpose of schooling. The Industrial Revolution in the 19th century created a new demand for a disciplined workforce that could read instructions and do basic math, leading governments across Europe and America to establish the mass state-funded public school systems we know today. So, the next time you think about school, remember this epic journey. Remember the Sumerian scribe pressing clay, the Greek philosopher debating under an olive tree, the medieval monk copying a fragile manuscript, and the Enlightenment thinker dreaming of a world where knowledge was for everyone. The classroom you sit in is the result of thousands of years of human struggle and aspiration. It is a testament to an idea that has built empires, sparked revolutions, and defined our world. The simple, powerful idea that our future can be better than our past, one lesson at a time. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey through history fascinating, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about how our world came to be. Let us know in the comments what piece of history you'd like us to explore next. See you in the next video.